Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The button requires some commitment, right? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Come on. So this morning we'll take a look at Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, Durvasa Muni's curse. And this morning, text 64. So there, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that that Narayana is glorifying his devotees over a span of 6 verses. So this is the second one. Be cool. I'd love to be able to stay for 3 more days and hear the rest. And again, because I'm not known for hewing closely to the clock, I'm going to skip the one word at a time, and we'll just do the one pada at a time. Nahamatmanamashase madbhaktais sadhubhir vina Shriyam chatyantikim brahman yesham gatiraham pura nahamatmanamashase madbhaktai sadhubhir vina Shriyam chatyantikim brahman yesham gatiraham para nahamatmanamashase madbhaktai sadhubhir vina Shriyam chatyantikim brahman yesham gatiraham para. Vaishnavis. word to word. Na, not. Aham, I. Atmanam, transcendental bliss. Ashase, desire. Mat bhakti, with my devotees. Sadhubhi, with the saintly persons. Vina, without them. Shriyam, all my six opulences. Cha, also. Atyantikim, the supreme. Brahman, O Brahmana. Yesham, of whom. Gati, destination. Aham, I am. Para, the ultimate. There are other people who say that about themselves. I am the ultimate. But he's right. He's not blowing smoke anywhere. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. What? That's strong language. Responsively, please. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is self-sufficient, but to enjoy His transcendental bliss, He requires the cooperation of His devotees. In Vrindavan, for example, although Lord Krishna is full in Himself, He wants the cooperation of His devotees, like the cowherd boys and the gopis, to increase His transcendental bliss. I'm going to press pause here for a moment. There's an astonishing statement Srila Prabhupada makes in the Krishna book. Can't remember just which chapter it's in now. But he says something to the effect, I don't remember the exact words, that by himself, Krishna is not so beautiful. But when he's standing next to Radharani, his Hladini Shakti, his pleasure-giving potency, he's magnificent. Okay, pause. Such pure devotees who can increase the pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are certainly most dear to Him. Not only does the Supreme Personality of Godhead enjoy the company of His devotees, but because He is unlimited, He wants to increase His devotees unlimitedly. Thus, He descends to the material world to induce the non-devotees and the rebellious living entities to return home, back to Godhead. He requests them to surrender unto Him because, unlimited as He is, He wants to increase His devotees unlimitedly. The Krishna consciousness movement is an attempt to increase the number of pure devotees of the Supreme Lord more and more. It is certain that a devotee who helps in this endeavor to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where did it go? Becomes indirectly a controller of the Supreme Lord. More strong language. Although the Supreme Lord is full in six opulences, He does not feel transcendental bliss without His devotees. An example that may be cited in this regard is that if a very rich man does not have sons in a family, he does not feel happiness. Indeed, sometimes a rich man adopts a son to complete his happiness. The science of transcendental bliss is known to the pure devotee. Therefore, the pure devotee is always engaged in increasing the transcendental happiness of the Lord. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim jatkripa tamahang mante Shri Gurun dinataranam Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam sthapitam yena bhutale Svayam rupa kadamahyam dadati svapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitunamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyabadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Nahamatmanamashase madbhaktai sadhubirvina Shayang chachantikim brahman yesham gatirahang para. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. There's nothing like Srimad Bhagavatam anywhere. I've read a lot of stuff. I've read a lot of really good stuff. But there's nothing like Srimad Bhagavatam. I haven't seen anything that even comes close. So this is a very startling statement. When Krishna talks about his affection for his devotees, the language he uses is off the hook, over the top. Pick your cliche. It's always a bit too much to digest. For example, take a look at the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, where is it? So this is from the 9th chapter. These verses shouldn't be surprising, but I'm going to share with these two verses, verses 29 and 23. Whoops. Am I in chapter 9? What the heck? How did I get there? Okay. These things are supposed to do what we tell them to do. That's why we pay money for them. And when they exhibit a mind of their own, it's a little disconcerting. So these are texts 30 and 31 from the 9th chapter. And I'm going to share Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sarartha Varshini commentary. Sarartha Varshini means a shower of essential meanings. And I'm also going, as you might expect, when we get back to today's verse, I'm going to share Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Sarartha Darshini, his revelation of the essential meanings. And you can see in so many of Srila Prabhupada's purports, you can see just how he drew from and adapted Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's essential insights. So the verse is Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Mamananyapak Sadhureva Samantavya Samyag Vyavasito Hisaha. And I guess this is probably Bhanu Swami's translation of the verse. Even if the most sinful person worships me with no other desire than to please me, Ananya Bhak, I consider that person to be my devotee, since he has fixed himself completely in me. Srila Prabhupada's language is a little stronger, right? Even if a devotee who's completely fixed in me happens to do the most abominable thing, Sudurachar. Durachar means bad behavior. Sudurachar means really bad behavior. So this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comment. And quite often his comments, he'll paraphrase the verses. Sometimes in his Bhagavatam Tikas, you'll see he really just paraphrases the verse. Or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as well. Because especially the Bhagavatam Sanskrit is very complex. It's very difficult Sanskrit. And so for those who aren't as scholarly as someone like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or Srila Rupa Goswami or Srila Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur will paraphrase it in simpler Sanskrit prose. He says, "My attachment to my devotee is my very nature. That attachment does not decrease even if the devotee commits wrong. For I make him come up to the highest standard." Remember Putana. She's not a devotee, but she was a demoness. Do we say that nowadays? It's 2025. Do we say poetess, demoness, actress? So she was a very nasty person, but Krishna made her a devotee. Why? Well, because she wore a devotee costume one day. If someone with bad conduct, addicted to violence, thievery, or adultery, sudurachar, worships me and worships no one except me, this is the ananya bhak, this is the provision here. He has no goal other than me. He's not interested in dharma, artha, kama, or moksha. But he's not perfect yet. Not perfect, really messed up. Work in progress, rough around the edges maybe. Even if someone with bad conduct, addicted to violence, thievery, or adultery, worships me and worships no one except me, and does not follow any other process like karma or jnana, and has no other desire than my desire, he is my devotee. And here comes the Sangshaya, the doubt, this little dialogue Vishwanath Chakravarti posits. He's anticipating our doubts, so he presents them. Oh, but considering his bad conduct, how is he a devotee? He is to be respected, mantavyaha, as a devotee. This is a mandatory, right? He is to be respected as a devotee because of his devotee qualities. Sure, there's all those other qualities here, but there's some devotee qualities. There's that single-pointed focus on serving Krishna. And when Vishwanath Chakravarti talks about the quirks, foibles, failures of a devotee, he always brings it back to this regret. Oh my God, I got to stop. I got to try harder tomorrow. And that's the thing. If we don't, if somehow or other our practice and our service today don't satisfy us, don't beat yourself up. Just okay, I'm going to do better tomorrow. And then do that. Do a little better tomorrow. Practice, we say practice makes perfect. I don't like that. Because where's the perfection in Krishna consciousness except for that one-pointedness? Because there's always going to be growth. There's always an increase of bliss, even in the stage of prema. There are different stages of prema. And those immersed in prema, those whose bodies are made of prema, their love for Krishna keeps growing more and more. It's very dynamic. There's nothing static about bhakti. So, okay. He is to be respected as a devotee because of his devotee qualities. It is a command. Mantavya, it's mandatory. Not doing so is an offense. My order is the authority. I think another translation I saw is because how can I expect it? How can I accept him as a devotee? And Krishna says, because I do. Oh, so here's the Sangshaya. Here's another doubt. So he should be considered a devotee in that position where he worships you, and as a non-devotee in that position where he commits adultery? No. He should be considered a devotee, eva, certainly, in all his parts. You should not see his bad qualities at all. He is completely convinced. Samyak vyavastitaha. He makes a splendid resolution. I will go to hell for my sinful actions, which are hard to give up, but I will not give up worship of Krishna. Strong language. I love Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur because he's such a zealot for bhakti. And then text 31. This is how it's resolved, right? Kshipram bhavati dharmatma sasvachantim agacchati. Nigacchati. Kaunteya pratijanihi. Name bhakta pranashiti. Says very quickly he becomes a righteous person and becomes completely devoid of contamination. O son of Kunti, please declare that my devotee never perishes. Why doesn't Krishna just declare it himself? Because sometimes people have a hard time taking Krishna at his word. I read somewhere that the residents of Mathura are known for their double dealings. Krishna was born in Mathura. So sometimes he goes back on his promises. We heard the other day about how grandfather Bhishma forced Krishna to break his promise. He made this solemn promise, I will take up no weapon. And grandfather Bhishma told Duryodhana, I'm going to make him break his promise. Just to protect his devotee. Okay, so here again we've got the Sangshaya dialogue. Just a couple of paragraphs. How can you accept the worship of such a sinful person? How can you eat the food and drink offered by a heart contaminated by lust and anger? The answer? Very quickly he becomes righteous. The present tense is used, and not the future, to express the fact that having committed sin, by remembering the Lord, he becomes repentant, and thus very quickly becomes righteous. Oh, how unfortunate I am. There is no one as low as I, bringing a bad name to the devotees. Repeatedly, Shashvat, he feels completely disgusted with his actions. And it goes on. Oh, it goes on. It's kind of nice. Or, he said, Vishwanath says, the use of the present tense can indicate in the future that in the future he will develop righteousness fully, but even right now it exists in a subtle form. After taking medicine, though the destructive effects of fever or poison remain for some time, it is not considered to be a serious condition. Thus, with the entrance of bhakti in his mind, the sinful actions are not taken seriously, and the traces of sin, such as lust and anger, should be considered insignificant, like the biting of a toothless snake. You know, when you're infant, before they start teething, you know, if they bite your finger, it's kind of cute, right? It doesn't hurt. But when the teeth come, it's a different thing, right? Toothless snake. Thus he attains complete cessation of lust and anger permanently. In Nagacchati, Ni stands for Nitaram, completely. This means that even during the stage of having the tendency to commit sin, he has a pure heart. Sangshaya again. If he eventually becomes righteous, there would be no argument. However, if a devotee is sinful right up till his death, what is his position? The Lord, affectionate to his devotee, then speaks loudly with a little anger. He's getting impatient here. O son of Kunti, my devotee is not destroyed. At the time of death, he does not fall to a lower position. But argues with harsh tongues will not respect this. Krishna then encourages the worried, lamenting Arjuna. O Kaunteya, going to the squabbling assembly with the tumultuous sound of drums, throw your hands in the air, and you should fearlessly declare this. Declare what? Declare that my devotee, I'm trying to do that, I'm not very good at that stuff. The devotee of the Supreme Lord, though committing sin, does not perish, but rather reaches success. Arguments defeated, pride deflated, they should undoubtedly respect you as a guru. This is Sridhar Swami's explanation, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. But why does the Lord order Arjuna to declare this when he could do it himself? Personally, he will say later, Mame Vaishyashi Satyang Te Pratijani Priyosime. I declare to you that you will truly come to me, for you are my very dear devotee. You're very dear to me. In the same way, why does he not say, I declare, Kaunteya, that my devotee does not perish? The reason is explained here. The Lord considered as follows: being affectionate to my devotee and not tolerating even a slight degradation of my devotee, I will under all circumstances uphold the declaration made by my devotee. Whereas I can break my own promise and accept criticism myself. Right? Bounces off me and sticks to you. Just as in breaking my own promise in fighting with Bhishma, I fulfilled Bhishma's promise. He broke his own promise to fulfill Bhishma's promise to Duryodhana. Thus, hearing a declaration from my mouth, the materialist disputers will laugh. But they will accept Arjuna's declaration as if it were written on stone. Therefore, I will have Arjuna make the declaration. And thus, one should not accept the statements of the falsely intelligent persons who, after hearing about Ananya Bhakti, even of the greatest sinner, think that this declaration is made by the pure devotee. Made by the pure devotee cannot apply in cases where attachment to wife, children, sinful acts, lamentation, illusion, lust, anger, and other despicable qualities manifest. So, you don't have to be perfect. Now, if you want, here we go. If we want to attain the attain the results of the karmakanda practice, trying to get ahead in the material world by doing all these pious activities, big sacrifices, and all that kind of thing. King Prachina Barhishat got a stern lecture with a very interesting story, because he was doing all these fancy sacrifices, and they're just little discrepancies here and there. And what's the result of that? More sin, right? Narada Muni told Prachina Barhishat, all the animals that you killed in those sacrifices, just because there's little flaws here and there, they're going to come for you. So karmakanda, not so cool. You have to do it perfectly if you want to attain the results. And if you do it perfectly, if you do Varnashram Dharma perfectly for 100 lifetimes, maybe you can get to be a Brahma. But guess what? Has an expiration date too. And oh, what headaches. We see that throughout the Bhagavatam. You got disobedient sons who won't marry and propagate, populate the universe. So, speaking of Narada Muni, in the 5th chapter of the first canto, the context here is, oh boy, fortunately I have another day. The context here is that Vyasadeva is feeling dejected, depressed, despondent. He's bummed out because he's compiled all the Vedic literatures, the Vedas, the Puranas, and even the Itihasas, the Mahabharata, and presented the Ramayana, Valmiki's Ramayana, for the upliftment of human society. And he's still feeling unfulfilled. He's still feeling like there's a hole in his heart. And he can't figure it out. And he's thinking, okay, what did I miss? Oh, did I miss really actually exclusively glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and his devotees and their devotional service? And Narada Muni comes and he sees his disciple bummed out, and he says, yup, that's exactly it. You hit the nail on the head here. Let me tell you something. And he goes, he's glorifying Bhakti, and in this 5th chapter, he says, I'm not going to read the Sanskrit because we have to worry about time. I particularly like the way verses 17 and 19 work together to draw a very clear distinction between Bhakti and absolutely everything else. So Narada Muni says, one who has forsaken his material occupations to engage in the devotional service of the Lord may sometimes fall down while in an immature stage, yet there's no danger of his being unsuccessful. We see that in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, right? Krishna says the same thing. On the other hand, a non-devotee, though fully engaged in occupational duties, read Varnashram Dharma, does not gain anything. Whew, more strong language. This is intense. So he's saying, if you give up everything to engage in bhakti and you still mess it up along the way, nothing's lost. Neha abhikramanasrosti. So, and then, however, if you do Varnashram Dharma perfectly, if you engage in karma, jnana, and yoga margs perfectly, still, whatever you get, a lot of trouble, and it's temporary. And so, and then in 18 is really nice. It really links these two verses, but these two verses work so powerfully together. It just sometimes I just get a little excited. So then he says, my dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, the fruit of workers, etc. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. And there was an instance in Honolulu, maybe late 70s, early 80s, where a bunch of God brothers had gathered and our GBC was there. And someone was complaining about some ex-devotee doing something or other, and people not taking it too seriously. And this was actually Rameshwar. And he looked at me and he says, Babru, can you get the first canto, volume 1 from the bookshelf? Open it to chapter 5, text 19. Read the verse in the purport. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to request that everyone take some time to read Srila Prabhupada's purport, but because everyone doesn't have access to this, I want to share Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Remember, Sarartha Darshini. This is a revelation of the essential meaning of the verse. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this verse elaborates the point that there is no misfortune for the devotee. Even if overcome because of poor determination, in his purport, Srila Prabhupada says bad association. I think the two kind of go hand in hand, right? Even if overcome because of poor determination, the person who serves Mukunda never returns to samsara, the place of enjoying the results of karma, whereas those practicing karma do return. That is because he does not experience happiness and distress from karmas, since he experiences only the fruit of happiness and distress directly given by the Lord. We talk about this. Oh, this is my karma, I got COVID. Or this is my karma, I broke my leg. This is Krishna personally trying to get your attention. This is a lesson that I got from from like my early days as a brahmachari. So every time I would because I'm a klutz, I would hurt myself, or even just slightly. There was this tree coming out over the stairwell coming up from the garage where we parked the truck when we would come back from Sankirtan. And I would always hit my head on the tree. And I have fair skin, my head was always sunburned from being out on the streets. And then also before that from being out in the ocean all the time. And Govinda Dasi would just say, closing the account. So he says that is because he doesn't experience happiness and distress from karma, since he experiences only the fruit of happiness and distress directly given by the Lord. And then he cites a text from prayers, a line from the prayers, a verse in the prayers by the personified Vedas. When a person realizes you, he no longer cares about his good and bad fortune arising from past pious and sinful acts, since it is you alone who control his good and bad fortune. And then a verse from the Padma Purana. The Vaishnavas do not have rebirth caused by karma. Vaishnavas take birth again to engage in service. Remembering from previous practice alone the mental embrace, upaguhanam, of the Lord's lotus feet, he has no desire to give that up. The verse does not say remembering his lotus feet, but rather remembering the embrace of his lotus feet. And the word again is used. The implication of these two words is that even though he may give up by his own choice the worship once, twice, or 3 times because of poor determination, after some time, by remembering his previous state of bliss from remembering the Lord, and also remembering his present state of distress from not remembering the Lord, he repents. Oh, what have I foolishly done? Let that be. I will not again abandon the worship of the Lord. He again begins worshiping the Lord. I'm going to do better tomorrow. This is where I always say, buckle your seatbelts. Because there's an interesting word in here. Srila Prabhupada gives a kind of soft translation. Rasagraha, one who has relished the mellow of serving the Lord. This embrace of the Lord's lotus feet is a figurative way of referring to service to the Lord's lotus feet. This verse also uses the phrase, does not desire to give up, instead of does not give up. This implies that he desires that he be devoid of pride in his practice. The accomplishment is in the hands of the Lord. The cause of not desiring to give up is then mentioned. It needs to be fastened firmly, snugly in your seat, right? Been on a roller coaster. There's some kid was killed, fallen. Just got, roller coaster takes the plunge and the kid flew out of the roller coaster. Rasagraha means one who is eager for tasting, or one who has a taste which is something like a ghost which cannot be given up. And then he says, haunted by rasa. The meaning is then that worship after the stages of Nishta, Ruchi, and Bhakti becomes actual rasa at the stage of rati. I see this as a sangshaya here. This sentence is a sangshaya. Okay, so maybe haunted by rasagraha, that means higher stages of bhakti. And then he says, however, even from the first day of worshiping the Lord, there is certainly a portion of tasting rasa, even if in a very covered form. Thus it is said, and here he cites the sage Havi, I think, one of the Navi-Yogendras in the 11th canto. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktiranyatra chaishatri eka kalaha papadyamanasa yatashnasyus tushti pushti kshudapaya nughasa. So here, this is the 2 lines, they make a comparison between engaging in bhakti and eating. And I used to, for a long time, I would see this verse as, how do I know I'm making spiritual progress? This is the gauge. 3 things happen simultaneously and progressively when we engage in bhakti. Bhakti, it's inherent in the activity itself, some sense of devotion for the Lord. Pareshano bhavo, some direct experience of the Lord. And this doesn't have to be a big spurti like Narada Muni had when he was still a little boy wandering the earth. That kind of like tease, that trailer that the Lord gave him. He says, okay, peekaboo, take a look at me now, because then it's going to be over, because this is to increase your hankering for me. So some direct experience of the Lord, really good kirtan, dig a really good class, some really good prasadam, good company of devotees, or something like that. It can even be something as small as that. Really well-made gulab jamans, actually made from milk, not flour and baking soda. Hint, hint. I had some a couple of months ago. There was a birthday party. Some devotees, Bengali devotees who live on Oahu, had a birthday party for their son, and Narayani made real gulab jamans with curd, with paneer. And I took one bite, and I just thought, I remember that, because it's been decades since I've had something like that. And then viraktiranyatracha, complete detachment from everything else. This happens progressively. It happens in stages. And how do we understand this? He says, and in his in his commentary on this verse in the 11th canto, he says, just as when we eat a meal, three things happen simultaneously and progressively. Tushti, pushti, kshudapaya. Tushti means pleasure. Pushti means satisfaction. And kshudapaya means relief from hunger. And he says this happens from the first morsel of rice. From the first morsel of rice. And then he points out, he says, so just as he points out a flaw in the analogy, he says, so when we eat, the more we experience pleasure, pushti is nourishment, pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger. So just as when we eat, the more we experience pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger. And suddenly you get to, at a point, you get to that point where you're thinking, anybody ever, don't have to raise your hands. Have you ever said, I never have to eat again? Or, I never want to eat again. This was an experience when we were brahmacharis. We could eat heaps of food, and then we'd just go burn it off the next day on Sankirtan. And he says, but here's where the analogy breaks down. And he says, similarly, when you engage in bhakti, the experience of the Lord, parishana bhava, the bhakti, the love, the experience of the Lord, and the detachment from everything else continually increases in the same way. He says, here's where the analogy breaks down. You can't keep eating forever, but you can keep engaging in bhakti forever. Okay, I'm in trouble already, so this is to be continued. Please do read, make some time. It's not a very long purport, but it's a very generous and blissful purport, 1.5.19, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.19. Okay, I'll stop here for further discussion, and the other things I have on the side, I'll bring in tomorrow. Okay. Anyone? Dvijamani pru, udilaruna purabhabhage, Dvijamani gaurama jage. One of my favorites.
Thank you, Maharaj. I really appreciate the philosophical glorification of bhakti in regards to how Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur always does. And I had a question about the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Navya Bhakta Pranashiti. Why is that Krishna is worried about just one sensitive statement and not the rest of the statements which he will speak about in the Bhagavad Gita?
Because this one's particularly important. And he says, declare it boldly. This is something for everyone to hear. Just as when, I didn't get to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Tika on today's verse. I'll have to fold that into tomorrow's. It's such an astonishing statement that even if someone who has Ananya Bhakti, they completely blow it. People are going to argue, what the heck, just as we see in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Now, Srila Prabhupada also cautions, don't take this as some kind of loophole, right? Well, I'm engaged in Ananya Bhakti, and I'm jonesing for a Big Mac. That's not, the devotees' mentality is, man, I didn't quite meet the mark today. I went out and robbed a bank and shot a couple of cops. Got to do better tomorrow. And I think, as I remember, I think Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur addressed that because he makes a similar statement. Well, at the end of the chapter, but again in the 18th chapter, right at the end of the Gita. So this makes this very strong statement, just love me and you'll certainly come to me. This is my promise because you're so dear to me. So Krishna covers, he says, and how do you know that? He says, Ma shuchaha, don't worry. I've got you covered. Even if you take complete shelter of me, and we'll see tomorrow, just what the kind of intensity of shelter that Krishna is talking about. If you do that, it'll be okay because I've got your back. I have that power. Just like he says, oh, people can say nasty things about me. Not going to bother me, but they're going to take you seriously. I know that's maybe a start. It's a bit of a tricky, the whole thing is a little tricky, why Krishna says that you declare it boldly. And sometimes, anyway, I don't want to go too far with that, but this is, and also giving Krishna an opportunity to glorify his devotee. When they hear it from you and you present it convincingly, they have to accept you as guru. That's what happens when you defeat someone in an argument, right? I don't know. That's a start anyway. Maharaj?
Yeah, I had Do you mean to tell me that someone who is a serial child rapist, minor kids, sometimes, I don't even want to go into it. And we've actually had that happen in ISKCON.
What?
And you mean to tell me that I've got to see that person as saintly? Okay, maybe 50, 1,000 lifetimes. But in the interim, I've got to treat them as respectful. I've got to give them a seat in the temple room. I've got to let them, wait a minute. What kind of social standard does that set for the rest of the world? What about the poor victims, the parents? Oh, he's saintly. So there's got to be some interim reaction, different way of dealing, or is it just full stop? He's saintly.
Those saintly things are there. The service is there. The service cannot be denied. I remember a meeting that the Grihastha community of San Diego had with you about exactly such a thing. And we gave you the way out by insisting that no, such a person cannot be allowed in polite company. We can't allow such a person around our temple. We don't want them giving classes. We don't want them leading kirtans. Let them do their thing from a distance. So we can regard their saintly, whatever saintly characteristics. There's no erasing whatever service they might have done. But because their behavior, because they're so wounded that they engage in behavior that causes such disruption, such offense to devotees. And I've had a couple of these people say, oh, did my time, got counseling, I'm cool now. And I'd had to say, well, no, what about your daughter? What about your ex-wife? What about their faith in Bhakti? You've harmed their faith in Bhakti so much. We don't want you around. I don't want to hang out with you. One of those guys, hurt someone who was a very, very close friend of my daughters, both of my daughters. And every time he says, oh, Haribol, everything okay? Yeah, okay, it's nice. I'm glad you're still chanting. Cool, fine, stay there. I'm here. I'm not going to come hang out with you. And I make it pretty plain. I've done that with a few of these people. And I've also done service over the last few years in ISKCON that is meant to ensure that some of these people, when we can make a very strong case, this is what this person has been doing sometimes for decades to so many devotees, harming so many devotees and harming even, harming their faith in Bhakti, undermining their faith in Bhakti. We don't want to have anything to do with this person. So no, we can love them from a distance, right? Love whatever they have a soul. And they have done some service. That can't be denied. But we don't want them around. Where's the regret in someone who uses, attains a lofty position in the society of devotees and uses it, as you mentioned, to serially abuse so many devotees in a number of ways? Where's that regret? Where's that, oh, I'm going to do better tomorrow? We don't see that. Instead, they dig in, right, and try to defend their position. Oh, I'm saintly. No, that you don't want. When they argue, oh, I'm saintly. So Krishna will accept them, and perhaps as Vishnu leaves their little wiggle room, right, in that one paragraph. Okay, maybe in the future, but whatever the service they have done, whatever result of service they've done, it's there in a subtle form. Cool, but we just don't want their company. And that's our prerogative as sadhakas. We want to choose our company. We don't want to necessarily blaspheme someone, pretend that they haven't done any service at all. And we don't really know their hearts. We can get some hints maybe from their behavior, especially if it's over a period of time. But we don't need to associate with them, or at least very closely. We make this. This is the Madhyama Bhakta's position, that they're able to discriminate, and even among devotees, they want to discriminate. Oh, this guy has this idea, such and such an idea about something like, and he's going around blasting it to everybody. I don't want to be too closely associated with him. It's a waste of my time. I'd rather associate with devotees who are going to pull me in the right direction, going to draw me in the right direction. When Srila Rupa Goswami talks about sadhu sangha among the 64 main angas of sadhana bhakti in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he gives 3 qualifications for the kind of association we should seek. Sadhu sangha, oh gosh, what are they now? I know this. Snigdhe, and svatovare. Snigdhe, they need to be affectionate. I'm missing the first one though. Can't remember. Dravida Prabhu, do you remember that verse? Pardon? Sajatiya. Sajatiya shaye. They share our goal. We have this, we're like, jata has to do with class or family. So they're one of us. We have the same goal. Sajatiya shaye snigdhe, affectionately disposed, and svatovare. They're more, at least a little more advanced than we are, so we can actually benefit from their association. But someone who doesn't have that regret, we don't want them. Let them go do their thing somewhere else. And we'll make strong statements publicly, post things on the World Wide Webs and stuff like that. Is that okay? Did I yell enough? I'm a long-time child protection person. Old Gurukula teacher, never been sued. Oh, former headmaster, never been sued. Hope that doesn't jinx it. So yeah, I have very strong feelings, just as Badrinarayan Maharaj does, very strong feelings about this. And and that's the wrinkle in this that we seem to have brought in to the society of devotees that we also need to address. So I'm grateful, and I hope the devotees aren't too inconvenienced by the extra time that took. But it's actually an important doubt to bring up and address. Sure, they're devotees. We just don't want to hang out with them. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyashta kripa sindhu eva